and we are actually going to go ahead now and get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media is the largest local media company in Metro New York. We publish over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events, and do so throughout Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Westchester, Long Island, and Philadelphia. Today, I'm really thrilled to bring you some experts to talk about senior care decision-making, which is so often a family affair. You know, there are so many decisions with so much at stake, emotionally, financially, socially, and even spiritually. So today we brought together top experts to help us with some of the biggest decisions for seniors. I'm excited to welcome our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce Gina Aiello. She's the president of Caring from the Heart. Gina is a licensed social worker who received her master's degree in social work from Adelphi University in 1993. She's a member of the National Association of Social Workers. Having worked in the nursing home industry since 1989, Gina has a strong affiliation with the needs of the elderly, their families, and their caregivers. As a social worker, Gina is compassionate to the uncertainty that families face while trying to keep a loved one in their home or addressing the needs of nursing home placement. Gina portrays a sense of comfort and peace of mind to families and their loved ones. Her in-depth knowledge of the Medicaid process, as well as an experience working with elder law attorneys, nursing homes, and geriatric care managers, make her such an important resource. Welcome, Gina. We look forward to your guidance on how to put into place the key things that seniors need.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. Next, I'd like to introduce Julie Wexler, MPA. Julie has spent her 25-plus-year career in a variety of elder care settings, including community-based senior services and government agencies. For the last 8 years, she has been in the senior living industry. Her experiences inspire her to develop and support programs to improve the quality of life for older Americans. Julie is an invited speaker on topics related to aging, Alzheimer's and dementia care, caregiving for older adults, and understanding elder care resources. Julie believes all seniors, regardless of cognitive or physical decline, deserve to live a full, active, supportive, meaningful, and purposeful life. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me again, Elizabeth. I'm delighted to be here this morning and to be on this amazing panel with these other professionals.
Fantastic, Julie. So nice to have you back. And next up, Marcy Einhorn, Esquire. Marcy is the owner and lead mediator at Conflict Resolution for Elders, where she offers one-on-one conflict coaching, as well as family and elder mediation services and hands-on workshops in conflict resolution to professionals and community organizations. Marcy had a long career as a court attorney to judges in the New York State Unified Court System, where she participated in resolving hundreds of business disputes for commercial division justices in New York County Supreme Court. Following her career in the court system, Marcy began serving in a fiduciary capacity in guardianship proceedings and offering conflict resolution services to elders and their family members. Marcy currently serves as a court-appointed mediator on several court rosters throughout the state and serves as a hearing officer for New York City's Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm looking forward to the opportunity of sharing some important information with your participants. Thank you.
Very excited to have you here. So I'd like to get started with Gina from Caring from the Heart. Gina, as a geriatric social worker, can you tell us what exactly it is that you do?
Well, first of all, I do a lot of things ranging from assessing the needs of the elderly, whether it's the cognition, medical, physical. I will coordinate their care, connect the elderly with community resources such as adult daycare, provide support to families and their loved ones when it comes to deciding what is the best option for their loved ones, explore different options of living, whether it is going into an assisted living, or perhaps not being able to stay in their home and they need nursing home placement. So I help them explore the options, arrange for medical durable equipment, whether they need a grab bar, wheelchair, shower chair, raised toilet seat, transportation, and financial entitlements, how they're going to pay for all this. And the most important thing as a geriatric social worker, what I do is advocate the best care for the elderly. They are my main focus.
That's wonderful. I mean, there's so much. I mean, what you just mentioned is overwhelming to think about all of the things that go into caring for your loved one, and making sure that as a senior, all of your needs are met. So what is helpful about, working with a geriatric social worker as opposed to just going it alone with all of those many things you need to address?
Well, it's very difficult to do it alone. I am like the starting point, the main focus, your hub. And it's like, imagine like the big umbrella, and under that umbrella, there are different prongs. So I will put the system in place, arrange for financial entitlements, go over their resources, arrange for the home care. What is the vendor agency? Where is that aid going to come from? Explore different topics of home care. Are we going to go with traditional home care? Are we going to go with consumer directed? And connecting all the parts together. Referring to an elder care attorney if, let's say they need to get their documents together, their healthcare proxy, their power of attorney, and their living will. So I'm considered like the main moving parts. There's a lot of things that go beyond, not just sitting with the family and just, okay, here it is. But it's taking it one step further. It's holding their hand, helping them through the process, not getting the hours that you need. So I'm like the main focus, connecting them to all the parts.
It's so important because as I said, and you said, I mean, there's so many different prongs to what goes into it, from, help in the shower to major financial considerations. So, not only is it helpful to have someone tell you everything that you could miss, because also we don't always know exactly what our loved one might need or what we might need. So being able to walk us through what we shouldn't miss, because we don't know what we don't know. And also, being able to make it personalized based on that individual and what that individual needs. So could you kind of walk us through the process? Let's say, I'm coming to you with a family member. What does that process look like and feel like?
So this is how it starts. I'll get a phone call from a daughter saying that my mother is 92 years old and she's been living home for all her life in her home. And we've been paying out of pocket and we just can't do it no more. So what are our options? What do we do? She wants to stay in her home, but she can't afford the private care anymore. So I'll sit down with the families, make a home visit, go over their cognitive status. So what do they need help in? Do they need help in bathing? Do they need help in dressing, mobility? Okay, so mom wants to stay home, so let's put the care in place for her. So, and if staying home is not the option, I explore with them, okay, so you don't want to keep mom at home, then let's explore nursing home. So, but before we can get to that part, family says, but I don't have any money. And I know that my mom can't get Medicaid. She can't qualify for it because she makes too much income. So I walk them through the process. We just go over their income. I explain to them what resources are protected, what resources need to be spent down to get them eligible for Medicaid. But I take it one step further. So once, as a geriatric social worker, once I submit the Medicaid application, I don't stop there, because the next part is arranging the assessments. I'm talking about keeping somebody in their home. Mm-hmm. So there are 2 assessments that take place. One is from the nurse from Medicaid. We'll do an assessment over the phone to see if they're appropriate for long-term care. And the other assessment is from a managed long-term care, getting the hours in place for my client. So, and I walk them through the whole process, because you really can't do this alone. Because how would you know what home care agency to pick? What the vendor agency, you know, should I go with Personal Touch? Should I go with New Century Home Care? And then it is, what are my options for nursing home? What nursing home should we go into? How do I get into a nursing home? What's the tool to get in? So they face many different challenges. So that's typically what happens. People call me to say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So the whole process, I walk them through everything, and the whole process takes about 3 months. So, you know, working behind the scenes, and a lot of families think, oh, okay, it's done. No problem. I'll get the care. But there's moving parts that take place beyond. And you sometimes, like I said before, it's difficult to do it alone. And a lot of time, and I think it's wonderful if families can do it alone. But then a lot of times I get phone calls from family members that will say, oh, I don't understand. I got the Medicaid, but now something's wrong with the income. They tell me I don't qualify. So we have to start all over again. So, you know, like I said before, the main focus to get all the care in place. And I actually held the hand and actually walk them through and formulate a plan and tell them, this is what I need. I need identity information. I need to look at your resources. I need to look at your residency, where have you been living for the last 2, 3 years, 5 years? And it's getting all the pieces, all the paperwork together.
Oh, I feel like I had to take a deep
It's
breath.
overwhelming.
You know, it can be so overwhelming. You know, I just went through this with a friend who was looking for, you know, home care for her mother. And I'm like, I don't know, I saw a commercial on TV. You know,
About
it's like
freedom choice.
you just feel so, you know, vulnerable because you don't know where to go, and you want to make sure that there's the good care and the right care, and financially you can handle it. So Gina, you know, you mentioned, you know, that very often you get calls, oh my gosh, you know, my mom's 90 and I need help, and you're there for them. But what if you could, you know, make the perfect plan? When would you recommend that people reach out to you in a perfect world, which we all know it's not? But in a perfect world, when would someone want to start thinking about this for themselves or for a loved one?
Well, if they start to see, you know, not such a seriously decline, you know, maybe mom is withdrawing a little bit, or I see they're having difficulty climbing the stairs, but they can still dress themselves. Sometimes they're forgetting. Start the process, because it takes time to get everything out of their name, or they may have to go to an elder care attorney. And with the changes coming with Medicaid, you don't want to plan in a crisis, because you never know what can happen. Mom could be doing very, very well, and then mom tomorrow takes a fall, breaks her hip. Now she's in a hospital, and now they're saying to me, the social worker in the hospital is saying to me, oh, I need to pick 3 different rehab facilities. Which one should I go to? So and then things could take a turn for the worse. So you really don't want to, when you start to see those subtle signs, you know, having difficulty walking, but they can still dress themselves. So when you notice little things happening to
That's
them.
good advice. That's good advice. Look, we all, I'm sure you get many calls that are emergency, but if you can do it ahead of time and, you know, work with you and have you in their corner, you don't have to make those decisions during a very stressful time. So, you know, obviously you deal with challenges with families. Can you give us some examples of challenges that you've seen with families and what they faced and how you've been able to assist them?
Okay, so there's a lot of challenges. I'll just go over a few. Mom is confused, but she doesn't really understand. She can't sign her name, but I need to get bank statements from the bank for Medicaid, and I never filed a power of attorney. So what do I do? So that's a big challenge to some people, because they're not on their bank accounts, their mom and dad's bank accounts. So refer them to an elder care attorney. If you don't have that power of attorney in place, you may have to apply for guardianship. And that is a very long process, and that's very difficult. And I'm sure Marcy will get into that later on about guardianship. Some of the other challenges, lack of hours for home care. this is a very big challenge for people. The family members see it differently. They say, oh, my mom can't be left alone. She needs 24-hour care. But yes, it's one thing that they say they need 24-hour care, but how the nurse sees it and how I see it is different, because it's done on their physical needs as well as their cognition. You know, are they wearing Depends? Are they incontinent? Can they feed themselves? Can they walk? Or maybe they need some assistance. So when there's a lack of hours, and let's say someone only gets approved for 8 hours, and mom says, the daughter says, that's not enough hours, 8 hours. So I take it one step beyond. So reach out to the doctor, get some medical notes, to make a case and present it to the managed long-term care plan, saying we need more hours. Another thing with the hours, request for a fair hearing, building up the cases so we can present it, or possibility changing that MLTC, such as, oh, they're with AgeWell, and AgeWell is only giving 7 hours, but let's go with Integra. Maybe Integra will give you more hours. So these are some of the challenges, and it becomes very frustrating for the loved ones, for the daughter and the son, because they definitely feel that, oh, mom needs 24-hour care, but it's very difficult. What they see and what Medicaid is and what we see is very different.
So the challenges really range from financial to related, and they can be quite overwhelming to families. And thank you, Gina, for all of that. You know, luckily we have someone on our panel here who is really a professional in dealing with challenges, because look, I mean, the reality is that even, you know, the challenges that our loved ones face, everyone in the family might not agree with what it is that is best for mom or dad. And so Marcy, welcome again, Marcy. You know, she has a really unique but critical piece to be able to create family harmony and make sure that some of these issues and conflicts and challenges don't become the thing that rips our families apart. And it can't be a taboo topic. It's something really important. So I'm thrilled that we have you here, Marcy, to talk about conflict resolution, because with challenges, conflict arises. Not everybody agrees.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit about conflict resolution and what made you go into it focused for elders?
Well, I had been an attorney and still am an attorney, but working in the court system for 20 years and traditional law. And when I left the court system, I retrained as a mediator. And I had worked in addition in guardianship proceedings as a fiduciary, meaning I'd be the eyes and ears of the court, and I would make recommendations to the court about what I thought the alleged incompetent, which is a technical term for somebody who's named in a guardianship proceeding, would need. And I started to see that the court could meet certain needs, but not all of them. And really, behind the scenes, if the family was able to come to step up and reach an agreement about the care, that would avoid a court proceeding. So I retrained, and I learned about the needs of elders in mediation proceedings. So mediation is a confidential, voluntary, economical method for resolving conflicts, totally voluntary. People seek me out by choice. It doesn't have to involve a court or a court proceeding. It might be clients of Gina's who are caught in the throes of making some very difficult decisions, and while they're researching it up front with Gina, behind the scenes there's a lot of disagreement going on about what mom's or dad's needs might be. So I thought I could be of help with all my years of experience in the law and my background in working with elders and in guardianship proceedings.
Such an important piece, because we don't necessarily, again, it's kind of what we were talking about with Gina, you know, it's the kind of thing you don't want to be in the throes of the problem when you're thinking about how do I solve this problem, and to know about this ahead of time can be very beneficial. So how do you help family members when they don't approve the decisions that an elder is making?
Well, I like to say it's always the elder's decision, even when the family members don't agree. And so it might be a simple, straightforward problem having nothing to do with providers, but more like, should mom stop driving? And siblings could, have very black and white thinking about that. One sibling might say, let's take away her car keys, that's it. I've seen dents in the fender, she's not telling us what's going on. And the other sibling might say, I don't want to be responsible for her social life, she's going to be too isolated. So what we do is, when we come together, is start talking about, first of all, what we have in common as family members. And that might be as simple as, look, everybody loves mom and wants mom to have the best outcome. And that might be the building block for going forward, for coming to an agreement, just something simple like that. And then people start, they come to the table with hardened positions. She should drive or she shouldn't drive. And if we peel back the layers and start asking questions about their concerns, and the concerns might be similar. We don't want her to be isolated. Maybe her meds are wrong. Maybe there's a problem with the vehicle. Maybe the car needs to be inspected and reworked. And we encourage people, we delegate responsibility to each of them, possibly to go do some research. Ask her if you can speak to her doctor. Maybe, see if the meds need to be reviewed, call her mechanic, help her bring the car in to get the car inspected. Maybe the brakes just need to be checked, have her glasses reworked, maybe her prescription needs to be changed. So that starts addressing the concerns. We still don't have a solution, should we take the keys away or not? But now the siblings are working together toward a common goal, which is to get the best outcome for the elder. So that's how the process starts.
So fantastic. And, Marcy, getting to know you, you just have this like gentle way about you, but you know how to steer people. And I think, that's such a critical thing. So can you share with us, like, how is mediation different than, seeing you as an attorney or going to a therapist, for example? What are the differences, and, what are the benefits of looking at mediation versus other options?
Well, attorneys and therapists both serve a very important function, and mediation is not to the exclusion of them. In fact, people who need a lawyer for the legal part of their problems, I encourage them to consult with an attorney, as well as therapy. You can be going through mediation and still be in therapy or seeing a therapist. It does not replace either of those services. But lawyers advocate for one party, and therapists are there to support one person. And as a mediator, I'm a neutral, and I don't have any particular agenda or outcome in mind when I sit down with people. I'm there to help facilitate their communication with each other. So I'm almost, almost invisible in the room, except for helping them find ways that they can solve the problem that brings them into the room. Because often, it might be whether or not mom should drive, but in the background is, does mom belong at home anymore? Maybe they need to be referred to Gina. So, and they're not ready to get there when they come through the door, but it's a way of setting up a method for them to communicate with each other that they're not familiar with. And not all problems rise to the level of legal problems. For this particular example is a perfect example. There's not much a lawyer can do about whether or not mom should keep driving. And a therapist might support each of the siblings through the decision-making process and the conflict emotionally, but pragmatically, the siblings have to deal with each other face to face, and that's where I come in.
Fantastic. Such an important resource. We want to make families come closer together, not further apart. And as you said, make sure that they keep in mind that their senior loved one is the one that they're all advocating for.
Right.
So what happens in the best of scenarios? Family members just can't agree on the best course of action for an elder at the mediation.
Yeah, they're not always going to agree. A successful mediation doesn't necessarily result in a particular solution. But again, it's a tool to begin to start communicating with each other in a different way. And so if they have gone and researched what's going on with mom medically, socially, what her needs are, now they're starting to look at the problem from a completely different perspective. And instead of coming to the table with a hardened position, this has to be done my way or the highway. And they're starting to communicate in a more open, productive way. That could be a successful mediation. And they may not decide right in the mediation what should happen with the car and the keys and how mom's going to get around, but they may have more information about how to contact Access-a-Ride and get her glasses prescription updated, and now we know the car is functioning. And when there may be further incidents, or maybe there won't be any further incidents, but they're at least positioned so that when more information comes in, they have a method for dealing with each other now that's more productive than how they used to deal with each other. So
that's great. That's great. So it's really an education on how to negotiate these things with your family, because it's not going to be one and done. This is an ongoing process. I mean, as Gina said, it's a laundry list of decisions that have to be made, and being able to have the skills to do that in a loving way and a factual way, as opposed to an emotional way, really can save families. And isn't that, the most wonderful thing is, I think all of our panelists here, it's about, caring, remember, caring for our loved ones and each other, and strengthening a family bond. Thank you so much, Marcy. That really is a lot of insights. And when I first met you, I thought, wow, why aren't people talking about this more? Because these issues are so prevalent in families, and you see families ripped apart, and it doesn't need to be that way. It's the last thing that anybody wants. And so, I think the work you're doing is really important, and I'm glad that all of our attendees can learn about it. I'm here today. Yeah, so please, if you have any questions also for Gina, for Marcy, and for Julie, please use the chat function. Thank you so much, Marcy. So I want to turn our attention to Julie, who's certainly a senior expert. What are some of the key things, Julie, that a senior and their family need to think about when they're thinking about a living situation that's right for their loved one?
So I think the thing that's most important when working with older adults to consider is really safety, right? We want to make sure that whether they choose to stay home or they choose to move to a senior living community, whether that's an independent senior living or assisted living or even a nursing home, that safety is always, first and foremost. And then also to consider quality of life. I like to think of senior living as another option, not the option that you end up with if home care doesn't work out. So I think it's a little bit of a different way of thinking, because basically you have two options. You have the option to stay home, or you have the option to move. And so I think what we're trying to do is really get people to think that perhaps the home that was built 50 years ago that you raised your children in, it wasn't built to maybe maintain somebody who's in their 80s and their 90s with safety and with quality of life. So let's explore some other options that were maybe designed specifically to provide that safety and quality of life people are looking for.
That's a really important point. And senior care facilities have certainly changed over the years. So can you share with us a little bit about that? It's not what people may think of from many years ago. I mean, I'm ready to sign up.
Right. So no, it's true. So yes, the senior living industry has certainly changed a lot, particularly in the last 20 to 25 years. And why is that? Well, we know that the 65 and over, and particularly the 85 and over segment of the population is the fastest growing segment of our population. And so the housing stock that we have available, particularly here on Long Island, wasn't necessarily designed to accommodate them. So, we have those baby boomers who are aging, and that's a very, very different population coming up the ranks that have very different ideas of what the golden years are, and are really looking for a more luxury environment, a less clinical environment, and a place where they can continue to be safe, but also be active, also have nutrition options and fine dining, and have all those things sort of all in one place, and sort of in a built-in social network, because, as Marcy so eloquently explained, seniors and driving, as you get older, those reflexes aren't working as quickly. And unfortunately, the suburbs were built for cars. And what happens when somebody is no longer safely able to drive? It really does affect their quality of life and their ability to socialize, their ability to get to doctor's appointments. So if we can have all of those things under one roof, it could really improve the quality of life and give folks the experience that they're looking for. So I kind of joke sometimes and say, it's not your grandfather's old age home. And because I think what people think, particularly the generation that we're dealing with, when they hear assisted living or they hear senior living, their mind automatically, goes to that very clinical setting that maybe wasn't available even 25 years ago.
That's such a good point. It's such a good point. And, I think COVID has really given us all a taste of what it's like to be isolated. Maybe in the past, children of seniors may not have really fully been able to grasp how difficult and the negative impact of being isolated is. And I think, now that we've all endured so much of that isolation, you can understand what it does to your emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, to just be isolated. And like you said, suburbs really aren't set up in a way that makes it easy for seniors to be mobile and have a social life. So what should a senior and their family consider when they're deciding about a senior living facility?
Mm-hmm. So, I think one of the things they need to consider first, it is moving right for me. And, there really is no perfect answer for that. Every situation is going to be different, and every family has their own set of circumstances, their own set of factors that they're dealing with and financial situations that they're dealing with. But some of the things I advise families to think about when they're considering possibly moving from the family home is home care not working? Are they not able to get the hours that they need, or find a home health aide that mom is comfortable with? Or perhaps the person is no longer driving, and we need to kind of have them in a situation where everything can all be in one place. Perhaps there's a cognitive or physical decline, and particularly if there's an Alzheimer's diagnosis, do they need to be in a more structured environment that can help them with that safety and that quality of life we were talking about before? Is the older adult increasingly isolated? That is, seniors and loneliness is a huge problem, not only here on Long Island, but nationwide. So, is there a history of dehydration or the person not eating well? I even have this conversation with my mother, and she tells me, I'm just not hungry. Well, we have to remember that eating is not just the food and the nutrition that we're taking in. Eating and dining is a social activity. And if you're eating meal after meal by yourself, it could lend to, poor nutrition as well as dehydration. Is there a history of falls? Is the home not safe? Or is the caregiver burnt out? We see very often a husband and wife situation where one spouse has a dementia diagnosis, and the well spouse is trying so hard to keep their loved one at home, but the disease, it is a progressive disease, and sometimes it does get to a point where it's simply just not safe for the person to be home anymore. They need more supervision. They need that 24-hour supervision. They need to be in a secured unit to prevent wandering, and also to be around professionally trained staff that know how to care for people with dementia. The other thing is, it's always better to make any kind of a life move or a major decision when you're healthy and can be part of that decision-making process, right? We don't want the circumstances to sort of dictate the decision that's made. So I always like to encourage people to be proactive so that they can be part of that move. So, these are some of the things, that would lend to somebody sort of making the decision to start looking for different senior living options, and certainly having a conversation with somebody like Gina, with somebody like Marcy, with your financial planner, with somebody else who understands, senior care, what the decision, what are the factors that are going to lend you to put you in a different direction. So those are some of the things that, to think about when you're, faced with the challenges of caring for your parent, or maybe you're making that decision for yourself.
Thank you, Julie. You're so knowledgeable about this. And, obviously you've helped a lot of seniors that we've done webinars with you that reach out to you asking for your advice. But, obviously you're with the Bristol. Can you tell us a little bit about the philosophy at the Bristol?
Well, I think at the Bristol, ultimately, our tagline is where every day means more. And that basically means that we want people to live with meaning, with purpose, and to also be social. And that is regardless of your age, regardless of your physical decline, regardless of your cognitive decline. And we have an amazing team of recreation directors and wellness directors and nurses and social workers, and even the housekeepers, the maintenance staff, all these people that come together to ensure that people can live with safety, with dignity, and the quality of life that they deserve and that they expect.
So is the Bristol appropriate for all the different stages in a senior's life? Because you're talking about, Alzheimer's and, you have such a range of individuals and their needs.
Well, I mean, we certainly do have people that are very active, maybe just of advanced age, but still pretty active, who choose to move to our communities, because they're really looking to be proactive. And even though they might not be receiving any kind of personal care assistance, what they are getting are the opportunities for social engagement, benefiting from our dining experience, but benefiting from our very full calendar of lectures and exercise classes and even bingo and those kinds of things. But assisted living is not going to be for everyone. We actually at the Bristol also have a sister community called Encore in Jericho, which is an independent senior living community. So maybe for folks that are a little bit more independent and active, that might be another option for you. So we have those folks that are pretty independent who moved to the Bristol, however, who are really, like I said, looking for those social opportunities and the other services that we provide. And then we have folks that, have pretty significant physical decline and might need assistance with activities of daily living, showering assistance, dressing assistance. And this is all overseen by a nurse and a full team of personal care aides who can help you with your medication and help you with, the showering, and maybe just help you in and out of the shower. It might not be full showering assistance, but maybe you're just a little unsteady. So we put together that care plan that really is tailored just for you, because we certainly want you to continue to be independent and to live with dignity, but also to provide the support that you need. So there's always that balance. And then we also have our secured memory neighborhoods. So if you have a more significant cognitive decline, an Alzheimer's diagnosis, or Parkinson's, or vascular dementia, and you really need that smaller, more structured environment with staff that are particularly trained to support people with dementia, then maybe the Reflections neighborhood is for you. So it's a tough question to answer, Elizabeth, because a lot of it has to do with your personal preferences, where you are financially, where you are cognitively, and sort of that big picture. All those things kind of have to come together for somebody to make the decision to move to one of our communities.
It makes a lot of sense. It's very important, as with each of you, to look at the individual as an individual, because each person has their needs, each family has their challenges that need to be addressed. Thank you so much. I mean, this is an incredible panel. I wanted to take a minute, to take advantage of the fact that you're all here. And I wanted to ask each one of you to share kind of like an insider tip, something that you would, if one of your close friends or your family came to you, what would be the tip that you would give to them? Julie, can you kick us off with that?
Don't wait until the crisis happens to make the phone call. You don't want to make the decision in a crisis, and And you know, sometimes we get phone calls from, you know, that adult daughter, and she's starting to become concerned. You know, it's okay for you to come to visit without mom knowing. And not because you're going to move her in tomorrow, but because you want to be proactive, know what's available out there, in anticipation of maybe something happening in the future, because it could be very overwhelming if mom does start to have some frailties, to then start dragging her around to go visit different communities. That's very overwhelming. And of course, she's going to hate all of them. So if you can, in a calm way, go out there, shop around. There's 100 assisted living communities on Long Island, and not all of them are going to be for everyone. There's different price points, there's different aesthetics, there's different demographics, there's different licensing. It's a very overwhelming process. So if you can go out and sort of scope them out first, and sort of come up with your favorite 3, then it could be a very simpler process when the decision really has to be made.
That's really great advice. Making decisions before they become emergencies. I love that. Marcy, can you share your tip?
So when you're at this point in an elder's life where a lot of decisions start having to be made, and there are several siblings involved with disagreements, I would just suggest that you try to pause when you're communicating with your siblings and set aside your hardened position about what you think must happen, and see if you just can listen with an open mind to what your siblings are suggesting might be a different solution. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I would just say, you know, try to listen with a different ear when you're communicating with each other, and try to listen more. Talk less, listen more.
That is a jewel for sure. Talk less, listen more. I love it. Gina, what about you?
I agree with Julie 100%. You don't want to, you want to plan ahead of time. You don't want to plan in a crisis. And one tip I would say to the loved ones, get all your documents in place. 3 important legal documents. Get your living will in place, get your healthcare proxy in place, and get your power of attorney in place. So everything is laid out for the loved one's wishes. It's very, very important. If you don't have that, it could really be a mess down the road when someone's health starts to deteriorate.
Thank you. Actually, we did a webinar with Julie and an attorney, and we talked about the financial and legal important documents. And in fact, we do have that recording of that on our Schneps Media YouTube channel. And then also on April 5th, Julie's participating with the Alzheimer's Association, a legal and financial planning webinar. And she's going to send that out to everybody so that you'll have it, so that if you want to join and be able to take a deeper dive into that, because that is very important, and everyone should have that. So thank you for that, Gina. And I will, just so everyone knows, this is being recorded. You will be able to get a copy of this, so that if you're, you want to share this with your family, what a great way to get started about mediation. Look what I saw. Or to be able to get everyone to kind of jumpstart and support one another to be able to make these decisions. You can share that with everyone. And then we'll also have it up on YouTube. But let's get to some questions. We have some questions from our attendees. So Marcy, one of our attendees wanted to know, well, why can't someone just have a lawsuit to settle a problem?
Well, not every problem rises to the level of a legal problem. Should mom drive or not, the courts, there's nothing they can do about that. There's no attorney would take that as a case, and no court would hear it as a case. So that's one reason. Another is that courts take a long time. They've been virtual now for a year. Jury trials have been put off, so the court dockets are quite clogged. So it could take a long time, and it can be really expensive. Mediation is much quicker, it's much more economical, and it can reach into problems of daily living that the courts can never address.
Thank you. That's really, really important information. Gina, Charlie wanted to know, he's a private investigator and he works with estate attorneys, and he has a concern about elder fraud. There's been a lot of elder fraud. Do you advise clients about fraud threats and to seniors? I mean, is that something that you've seen and that you assist with?
I've just seen that recently with one of my clients. It just happened just the other day. So I assisted the wife with, okay, so we need to, we did a police investigation, and the police informed us that we need to take it a step ahead to report it to unemployment fraud. So I've seen it increasing lately. I just had a case the other day.
Wow. So it's really something that you want to make sure.
It's very, very new. Mm-hmm.
You really want
Where
to
the-
you're protecting your loved one.
Right, where the point was where the caseworker was going to deny the Medicaid because there was income coming in that, so there was a whole big fraud investigation.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So definitely something that you should keep an eye towards.
Absolutely.
Gina has a question for Julie. Is it best to have my mother in a facility that's better culturally suited to her, or to have her live closer to me?
Yeah, so everybody's going to make that decision. And it's certainly important for mom to be living in a community that's going to have activities that she's going to be interested in, but at the same time, mom's not getting younger, and we want to make sure that it's easy for you to go see her and to be part of her life. I think that's a decision that every family is just going to have to make. Sometimes mom may not want to move very far away from where she's currently living because of doctors and her friends and those kinds of things. But at the same time, we don't want to have mom to move again. And if you're living an hour and a half away, that could be really a challenge when there are any kind of health issues. So yeah, that's a tough one, and every family is going to come up with a different answer, I think.
But Julie, you bring up a really good point, you do need to consider mom's world and what she is comfortable with, and doctors and friends do make a really big difference.
Yeah, and I think also it depends on where mom is cognitively. If there is a dementia diagnosis, is she able to make reasonable and good decisions for herself? So that is a question that you need to ask. And like I said, these are just tough decisions that more and more families are having to make every day as the population ages, and more options are available for people. So the three of us are all here to support you and help you and give you good information.
Fantastic. I think I could sit, I'd love to stay here. I have a couple more questions coming in, and then I want to respect everyone's time because everyone has been so generous with their time. Eckert says, once my mother-in-law qualifies for Medicaid, do you need to start with community-based services right away, or can you wait until she really needs them? I guess that's for Gina.
Usually when someone is applying for community Medicaid, you're applying because they need the care. They definitely need the care. Can you apply without? Yes, you can. You can.
Okay. And also, this is something, very probably specific. So it's something that they should probably reach out.
Yeah, because it also depends on the
needs.
person's individual needs as well. Mm-hmm.
Terrific. So I am going to put out, everyone here will get an email with our panelists' contact information so that you can be able to reach out to them. I'm just going to have each of them go around and give you their email, not their email, but their website. But I will have all of the contact information so you can reach out to them individually, because I know that you all have a lot of questions that want to be answered, and so many of them are so specific to your situation. So Gina, let me jump off with you. What is your website?
Website is www.caringfromtheheart.net.
That's caringfromtheheart.net, and we will get that to you. Julie?
Our website is www.thebristol, which is BRISTAL.com.
Perfect. And Marcy?
And my website is actually my name. So it's www.marcyeinhorn.com.
And I am just putting all of that right now in the chat so that each one of you can copy and paste that. But do not worry if you don't, because it is going to come right to your email box. Again, Julie is going to send you also information about the April 5th webinar talking about legal planning and financial planning. We also have past webinars that you can go to that Julie was featured in with Futterman Law Firm, where they talk about that as well. So I want to thank our panelists. This has been really extraordinary to have these three remarkable women with us today talking about these really important decisions that need to be made for either oneself or our loved ones. So thank you, Marcy, Julie, Gina, for your generous time with everybody and your important information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you, Gina. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining us. Wonderful to have you spend some of your morning with us. I hope this was valuable to you. Please do reach out to our panelists so that they can help you with your own personal situation, because everyone is so unique. I want to wish you all to stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.